Have you ever wondered what was out there in the night sky? Stared up at the stars in the hopes of seeing something out of the ordinary? Have you ever heard unexplainable noises coming from a vacant room, or watched a shadow cross the wall in front of you? Have you asked yourself if there's life after this one, or if you had life before? What about strange creatures that are mythical and elusive? Have you experienced deja vu, or felt a prompting to leave because you felt you were in danger? What if tomorrow you were on the fringe? Welcome to What If Tomorrow on the Fringe. I'm Philip.
I'm Mark.
And obviously you guys can see we have our two favorite part-time co-hosts, Pam and Jess. They always bring a lot to the show. So how are you guys doing?
Doing great. Doing good.
Good. Tonight we have a fun show. Mark and I, we were going to do some prophecy stuff tonight, but looking at everything, I was like, man, we need more time to research it. To do some
wholly
justice.
Unqualified to talk about.
Yeah. I invited somebody on. I haven't heard back from them, so whether we have or have not, we're going to try it next week. So, hey, Chris. But yeah, so we figured we would bring in the big guns and let them talk about the Djinn. I mean, it's going to be a crazy thing. I don't know much about them. I did, and there's my wife. Hey, babe. It's interesting, the little bit of research that I did get done on it. It is really, I found it to be interesting. It's kind of spooky. So we'll see where it goes. I think this is Pam, one of Pam's favorite subject, isn't it, Pam?
Yeah, it's up my alley for sure.
Good. So we'll get going. First things first, check us out over at our website, whatiftomorrowmedia.com. It's got all of our affiliates. Duke Cannon, EMP Shield. I seen they have a new spokesperson. Did you see that, Mark?
I did not.
Ted Nugent.
Well, Uncle Ted. Uncle Ted says it's good, then it's got to be good, right?
Hey, Mom. Let's see who else we got. We got what I say, Duke Cannon, EMP Shield, My Patriot Supply. Now's the time to really be looking at everything, especially with the inflation skyrocketing and all that. But that's a whole nother show. We'll probably touch more on it next Monday. We got a good show for you Monday too. I found some stuff out we're gonna have fun with, but
it's weird.
I found some information out. It could be. It could qualify for both, I believe. And but anyway, we'll save that for next week. But yeah, help us out, check us out, support us over on the website. Come over and hang out on the Facebook group, What If Tomorrow podcast group over on Facebook. Come over and join us, hang out, share stuff. Pretty much anything goes. I mean, I've not ever rejected a post or anything like that. So we're building a community here. Mark and I were big on community. I think we're building it both ways. I want to give a special thanks to Sonny and Will for jumping on and covering for me Monday while I was handling my dog and my kids and all that stuff. Just in case anybody's wondering. My doggy's actually doing really good now. He's finally out from under the house, and he's out. My wife said he was out in the driveway, so he's doing a lot better. I thought it was going to be. It was kind of iffy Monday night, but he's doing good. So anyway, on with the show, the Djinn, and it's not your Disney version of a genie, obviously, or we wouldn't be talking about it. So
no, they're really not very nice.
They're not. They are not. Pam, I'll let you go with it. I mean, enlighten us and share what you know about it, if you would, please. I mean, like you said, I don't know where to start.
Yeah, so. That we were talking before the show. Where do you start and where do you end? There's so much when it comes to the Djinn and where they come from and what they're all about. From my research, and I pull a lot from like Rosemary Ellen Guiley, which she had some amazing work that she did over the course of her life. I know that the Djinn came to be 4,000 to 6,000 years ago in the Middle East. they were around, and they were the only ones that were intelligent, had intelligence, that were on the earth before man. And man was made, according to the Quran, man was made from clay. And when he was brought into being, God basically told the jinn that they needed to bow down, and they refused. Iblis was the first. He refused. So they were banished from the earth as it is into what we know now would be a parallel dimension. So basically, they're still here. We just can't see them. They're just, a step away from us. And that in itself is scary because they don't have our best interests at heart ever for any reason. They want to be back here full time. And they take delight, sadistic delight, most of the time, in harming humans and trying to get us out of the way.
They're working on our internet tonight, it seems like.
They definitely were before we started.
Yeah, mine was kind of in and out. It seems to be doing all right now.
Jess's camera died.
My camera died. Sad. I'm sorry if I'm all grainy tonight. I'm using the computer one.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. It's better than my first one. Remember that camera I had? It made me look,
angelic. You had like a glow.
Glowing.
It did have a glow, but it made me look like, an old TV show on a CRT. I was like, we've got some snow on the screen, folks. Remember tuning the aerials in by going outside and turning them while your parents yelled at you? Just a little more.
We were the remote controls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then when the knob broke off, you used pliers.
Yeah, I think we all had those in our house.
We were up and down at my house.
Mine was on a really high shelf, and so when I had to turn it, I had to get up on tiptoe and use my finger to catch the pliers with.
Oh, yeah, nice.
And nobody was allowed to yell back because it was easier just to go around. Wait a minute, I'm just going to go around.
Yeah. When I think about Djinn, obviously you think about genie, and from my research, from the little research that I did, the genie is actually derived from Djinn.
Yes.
I think about, you remember the old story, The Monkey's Paw?
Oh yeah, that's a creepy
remember
one.
that old story? That's what it reminds me of.
Ooh.
That they'll grant you a wish or whatever, and then you're going to pay for it one way or another.
100%. It's never going to come out to work to your advantage.
Right.
And
no matter how bad you want.
Wish in the most malicious way possible.
Mm-hmm. Probably the best way, and I know it's one of the cheesiest movies ever, but if you ever saw Wishmaster, terrible movie. I mean, so far as graphics, total cheese. But that's probably the way that the genie is portrayed in that movie is probably the closest. Definitely way closer than Aladdin, or any of those, as to what true genie's personality is. They are definitely, out for harm and to just self-serve.
No.
They're not devils or demons, but in the Western world, probably the closest that we're going to come to what they are in our thinking is going to be like fairies, the fae folk, maybe ETs, goblins, things like that. And I know you guys have run across this before. What we used to call fairies may possibly be what we call ETs now. Well, what we used to call fairies and ETs is more than likely a lot of it has been Djinn all along. Not all of it, but a lot of it will probably held back to that. It's really, and Jess and I have gone around on this before, it's really hard not to get to that point to where you want to, because I'll be like, God, it all comes back to the Djinn. She's like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. She's totally right.
You can't do that.
Yeah, right. You totally can't do that. Not everything is Djinn. But
I always remind her. So she mentioned Rosemary Island Guiley. I mean, she really was the expert on it. She actually wrote more books on the Djinn than what you have available to you now. She actually discontinued some of them because she got so scared. They were starting to kind of infiltrate her life, and every time she turned around, it was something to do with the Djinn, and she felt like she was starting to get negative attention from them, and she went a little nutty with it. I personally think she kind of John Keeled out. Like John Keel went too far with the Men in Black and the aliens and all of that. I think she went the way of the Djinn. So I always remind Pam, I think Rosemary dove too far and really started considering too many things Djinn, and it took her over the deep end. And that's never good. Don't ever.
No.
I use it as like it's a verb for me.
It's
Don't
a cautionary
John Keel out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, don't John Keel out, because she did. She went deep, and she actually quit having some of her books printed because she was so scared that if she continued putting them out to the public, that they would literally attack her, that something was going to happen to her because of that. And that's what John Keel went through. He went through that process too, right before he died. So a little scary. Well, so don't do it, Pam. Don't do it.
Right. Oh, I'm not. Don't worry. I do enjoy this particular subject, but not to the point where it's going to hopefully be to my detriment by any means, because nothing's that cool, Right. There's a point where you gotta just take a step back.
So is it a case? I mean, Rosemary Allen Guiley. I mean, she is like probably one of the most credible sources on paranormal. In all honesty, I didn't realize that she had went that far and that deep on Djinn. Like I said, I don't know a lot about the Djinn. I've heard of them. I've not really paid a lot of attention to them. Do you think it's a case of, because you said that she died of cancer and all that. Do you think it's kind of self-inflicted in some aspects? Like worry and
maybe it's hard to contemplate that. You don't know what was going on in her life at the time. I just know that she dove a little too deep. It happens to the best people.
It does.
These researchers that just get in too deep, and you almost wonder if some of them just didn't get into their own head.
Very possible.
And did it to themselves, basically. But I've even talked to Pam and Mark before. I have times when I dig too deep. I start getting into whatever I'm investigating or researching, and I'll go hard for weeks and this wealth of information will start piling up. And before I know it, I have coincidences happening and numbers repeating themselves and odd things moving in my house. And I seeing shadows out of the corner of my eyes. And that's when I know I need to stop. And I call them up and say, hey guys, I need a break. Give me like 3-4 days and I'll just shut that down completely. Because it gets nutty. And then you think, is it the outside forces doing this to me, or is it something in my head? The human brain's the human brain's a crazy thing.
It is.
We don't know how it works. And we could very well be doing some of this to ourselves. So, am I creating the circumstances for this? So you have to be careful.
A lot of people do. I mean, look at like Nikola Tesla. He did the John Keel thing before John Keel was even born.
Yeah.
He did.
He went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I mean, his love interest was a pigeon.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I forgot about that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, so you can do yourself in with obsession and all your crazy stuff. I mean, then to have Edison steal all your crap and take credit for it. I mean, that had to be
they had to weigh on it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Rosemary that got me was because I've read several of her stuff on the Djinn too. And if you listen to her later podcasts, not long before she was kind of out of the public eye and passed, just about everything she started saying it was all Djinn. It didn't matter. It could be a ghost story or alien or Bigfoot, cryptids. And she'd be like, oh, it's the Djinn. She got in so deep, she started claiming everything was the Djinn, which I don't think. I think Djinn may be around, but I think they're separate from some of these things. Although I do believe that the Djinn are capable of mocking.
Mm-hmm.
As just kind of like shadow walkers, and I think they're quite capable of any form to.
Well, they were originally
trick
called.
You out.
It was originally said that they came from the smokeless fire, so might be like a form of plasma. Nobody's really sure what they are, but honestly, if you look at shadow people, that's a very good possibility that they are more than likely Djinn. That wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Well, see, I have a theory on shadow people, going a little off topic. I don't think they're Djinn. I've always considered them to be their own beings. People, when they see shadow, like the hat men, they can't ever tell that they're actually wearing a hat. They just see the outline. And I wonder if whatever kind of creature they actually are, that's just the way they're shaped. And it's the closest thing that our human brains can come up with when we see them. It's the shape of a hat. It's a hat man.
It very well could be.
Yeah. She was all about them being Djinn, but I was like, I've always wondered if they were their own thing.
I don't know if they are or not. I mean, because of the a lot of their actions seem to be deliberate, and they're a lot of times calculating, and they like to toy with people, things like that. That's more along the lines of why it makes me go back to, and it also makes me think of the Fae too. But there's really not any Fae that I know of that would match the total description of what a shadow person is. So that's why I was kind of the Fae and Djinn remind me a lot of each other, and shadow people. That's kind of where I went with that, was why I believe that or why I feel that way. But who knows? None of us know.
Yeah.
No.
It's fun for debate, though.
When I heard they were shapeshifters and all that, it kind of, some of the stories that I was listening to, it sounded almost like the Skinwalker stories in some aspects. So it kind of reminded me of that. So I kind of wonder if we are dealing with an entity that's been around for millennia.
Absolutely, they are. Yeah. They've been around longer than humans.
Right. And it's the same entity, but just in a different belief system. It's a different name, like the Fae or the Djinn or
or the Coyote Trickster in North American Indian lore is very similar. I mean, it could be the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that. But one thing that's interesting about the Djinn, they're also said to be, no matter how beautiful they portray themselves, there's always going to be one thing about them that's not right. That there's like one physical flaw they might have that will give them away if you can find it.
Like a doppelganger?
Maybe. Or like, I think they went with, which cracked me up, because they were like, well, if it's a beautiful woman, the only way you'll be able to tell is if she has hairy legs and hooves. And it's like, okay, that's a little that's a little freaky.
Yeah.
I would have a problem with that.
Some of them European girls have pretty hairy legs. Who knows what they've got under their shoes?
Maybe have Sharko foot or something. I don't know.
That's funny.
While we're talking about that, we could totally bring up the different kinds of Djinn. So they're not all just like one kind. Like there's even, my favorite are the sex Djinn. They're kind of like a succubus and an incubus. Supposedly Djinn are completely capable of falling in love with human beings, and they will try their darndest to insinuate themselves into your lives and ruin your relationship so they can keep a hold of you.
Yeah, that's a big one. That is a big class.
I think everybody's dated that girl.
See, that fits too because um, what thing? I just lost it. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, go ahead. I'll remember, I'm sure, once we're off this part of the topic and move on. So,
Well, there's stories, you can find them on the internet if you go hunting, about people who have supposed jinns that run in their family. You'll find an entire family of men, generation to generation, that can't keep a wife around long enough to do much of anything. Have some offspring, and then the wife is gone, and they're constantly run off. And it's happened for so long that they now know that they have this female jinn that is running off their mates. And it passes down through the family. It goes back generations, because Jinn can live to be thousands of years old.
right.
You know, I ran across something interesting too on that vein. I think it was Hallowell that was talking about the fact that they do run from generation to generation, and as a person is reincarnated back into that same family, that Jinn may come back around because they are still there. So that's how they kind of, you know, follow that family. They know they're coming back, so they're going to be back there with them again, which is creepy on all kinds of levels, because not even
Talk
after
about the
death
ultimate
can you get rid of
stalker.
them, right?
Yeah, but that makes you think, though, because that kind of lends itself to American Indian folklore with the little people. They will do the same thing. They will latch onto a particular family and stay with them generation after generation after generation. Kind of like, it kind of reminds me of like Harry Potter and the house elves.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's what that reminded me of.
Except most of the house
and
elves don't want us to die. Hopefully,
yeah.
See, but what I find weird, I mean, we talk all the time about things, everything being connected. You know, and you're now talking reincarnation. So what happens? Okay, I mean, you guys, I'm sure, are aware. You know, at least the stuff that I've looked into with reincarnation. You may not necessarily come back as another man.
true.
You know, you may come back as a woman. So I wonder how that works. Do they stick around? Do they, you know, do they ruin your relationships? You know, even as a woman or whatever? I don't know.
Very good question. Somebody's
Well, they
got
don't have
feedback.
to try very hard. Humans are good at doing that themselves.
True.
Yeah,
I mean,
that is very true.
it's probably a fairly easy task.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, and if I remember, they talked about in the garden that, you know, the serpent with Adam and Eve could have been a jinn. I know some of the stuff I watched was more along the lines of Islam.
Right. A lot of it. Well, there's a whole chapter in the Quran that's just on the jinn.
Right.
And that, you're right. That was one of the things, was that the woman very well, the snake could have been a jinn, because at the time, you know, and this gets into the whole reptilian thing too, is they think that may have been what this was a reptilian that was what they would call a snake, but it stood on two legs, you know, and who knows. But that's an interesting avenue that I did not pursue because that, you know, I have an open mind, but I just wasn't quite ready to go that route yet to check it all out. Because there's a lot when it goes into all of that. And that's more into Hallowell, and I can't remember the other guy's name, the other researcher's name.
When it goes all biblical?
It goes all biblical, and it goes into the reptilian ETs, or, you know.
A lot of that's
the Silurians.
Yes.
Which he is now on. I actually watched a video with him the other day, and he is now on to the simulation theory.
Oh, interesting.
He gives a really interesting view on that. You know, again, it's off subject, but I know he talks about, you know, the speed of light being the processor speed, you know, max speed of the processor and all that. It's kind of cool. It's a pretty cool theory.
Yeah, that is neat.
But anyway, You were talking about different kinds of Djinn. You had more of the incubus and the succubus and all that. What other? What other?
Well, actually, before Islamic times, back when it was like non-Islamic Arabia, the jinn were considered to be muses for soothsayers and poets and artists. And there's a lot of places that still consider jinn to be more of a muse than anything. Muses aren't, or excuse me, muses. Jinn aren't just Arabic, Islamic. You can find it in all sorts of places. You can find it in Egyptian culture. You can find it in Syrian culture. It's in Turkey, Persia. I can't remember. Tons and tons of places. And they all have their own name for it, but it's a jinn, basically. And depending on which place it's from, they have all these different qualities. And in fact, when Dionysus wrote the setup for the 9 levels of angels, I don't know if you guys know about the 9 levels of angels. It's a little bit. It's a Catholic thing. Yeah. There's 9 levels that he wrote. It's one of the, and I apologize if I'm insulting any of the Catholics out here that might hear this. He was a Greek author who wrote this, and now the Catholics follow this tooth and nail as if it's scripture, which I think is kind of funny. But he based all of the angels, all the different kinds, the cherubim, the minions, the thrones, blah 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 blah, all off the different kinds of jinn. Because he and a lot of other people believed that the angels were jinn under God. Just like angels didn't actually have wings. It's something that modern day people have attached to angels to make them more glorified looking, I suppose. Right. But a lot of especially in the Old Testament, they talk about how the angels really looked, and they're really freakish looking. If you follow those old, had 9 faces and 8 feet, and they were, it's some crazy stuff. So even the jinn goes clear back to then, when they were kind of establishing some of those old Christian/Catholic beliefs. Those slide in there too. It's just kind of a little interesting side note.
See what I can find real quick, because they're crazy. They're not what you think they would be.
No, they're not. Not at all. And they were not always nice either. Now we see them, they're all cleansed, basically. They're scrubbed clean and bright and shiny, and they were not. They were feared. They were to be feared.
I mean, just look at the archangels. Their jobs were just to bring down God's wrath and stick it to you. The only angels you find in the whole listing that were, in my opinion, kind of virtuous were the lowest choir angels, which were just plain old angels, and they were supposed to be, our helpers, our guardian angels, the people who actually helped humans, supposedly. But yeah, the rest of them are just, if you read some of the descriptions of them, they're mean and nasty and nuts.
I know the one I don't know what type of angel it was. I'll pull it back up there. But you can see it's got the face of a human, a bull, a lion, and an eagle. Multiple wings. The feet are cloven. More like a cow, I guess.
That would be terrifying.
It would. It absolutely would. I guess a cherubim, terrifying. I guess is what it is. You think of a cherubim, as a sweet little baby, like Cupid and
with tiny little wings,
Not even.
That's a whole other show, but it's part of it.
Yeah, it is. And if you read anything on jinn, you're going to float back into the Catholicism and the old Christianity starting out. A lot of people think that's all one and the same.
Yeah, it's not.
It's like Pam said, there's no way to start. if you're going to research that, that's all you're going to research. It's deep
Right.
and it goes on forever. I can't
It
imagine
does.
where that would start and end at. So
Who
unless you
knows?
guys want to take that on.
Well,
Yeah,
even a lot of your description of demonic entities fits the Djinn profile.
Hmm.
it does. And they can mimic anything. So if they wanted to make you think that they were a demon, they could easily.
Hmm.
I
And some
know.
cultures, some cultures think that they can possess you like a demon does too.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, like I say, similar creatures appear in almost every mythology. I mean, even the American Indian mythologies.
Hmm.
So it's obviously, it obviously seems to be something that is a worldwide phenomenon.
It is.
As much like every culture talks about a great flood, every culture talks about entities that are very, well, Djinn-like,
Hmm.
whether they call them that or not. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to share.
Another thing about the Djinn is what is really scary to me is the fact that how deeply they seem to be involved in human affairs, even when it comes down to politics, especially.
Yeah.
Trying to get uh, people influenced to do their bidding, which is always what it's going to come down to. It doesn't matter if you appeal to one, hey, I'd like to be the president or whatever. Well, they might make you the president, but it's just because it's going to serve their end. It's their means to an end. It doesn't have anything to do with you. They're going to toss you to the side first chance they get.
sounds like the WEF.
Right?
Yeah. But real quick, backtrack a little bit. Again, that's probably the cherubim that we just seen. This is a little bit different though. But there's a few in here. This won't zoom for some reason.
That's wonky.
Yeah. Cherubim.
That looks very pleasant. Not frightening at all.
Yeah.
No.
And this one, the Malakim or Kaim or however you pronounce it, obviously looks human. But the seraphim,
It doesn't look human at all.
It doesn't look
Nothing
human
at
at
all.
all.
Yeah. The description is like it has like 6 wings and 8 feet, and
yeah.
it's nuts.
That's supposed to be the Ophanim. I guess that's how you pronounce it. And these are all eyes.
That's weird.
It's kind of crazy looking. But again, I go back to, by definition, God and angels are extraterrestrial.
Yeah, 'cause they
Yeah, they're not of this
They don't
earth,
come
so
from
yeah,
here.
Right.
I mean,
It's true.
I'm not knocking it.
Get into it.
Not at all. But yeah, by definition.
would they be pre-terrestrial instead of extraterrestrial?
That's a possibility, I would think.
I mean,
because according to scripture, they were one of God's first creations.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I would say along the same lines of the Djinn, how were they created? I understand they came from a smokeless fire,
Mm-hmm.
but
That's
is there scripture? Not necessarily in the Bible, the Quran or whatever. Is there anything that says what or the legend behind how they were created?
Well, I don't have it in front of me, but I have the Quran. It's 15, chapter 15, verses 26 and 27 is where it comes from. Okay. That they were created and populated the earth 2,000 years before man was created from dried clay. And that was the smokeless flame of fire.
Okay.
So I can tell you where it's at, but I don't have it in front of me.
A lot of people think that smokeless flame of fire is another term for portal.
Mm-hmm. And it could be.
I mean, that a portal just simply opened and they came through.
See, I wanted to. I know you guys like to read, and it's a new book. It's a fiction book. I'm not by any means alluding that it's nonfiction. It's one of my favorite authors. His name's Craig Allenson. He's got a new series he started. It's called Convergence, and it's about this wizard. You know, he's not a very good one because he don't really realize he is one. But it talks about portals to the other dimension lining up after so many millennia or what have you. And I couldn't help but think, I was like, I wonder if there's something there, you know, because all these other, you know, like dragons and monsters and stuff move through these portals and stuff. You know, so it's kind of weird. I mean, I know it really doesn't have any basis to that, but you brought up portals, and I don't necessarily know if it's a timeline thing, because I believe at that level time is irrelevant. You know, because it's circular instead of linear. You know, and I don't believe time's relevant at that level, like I said. So if you can access that at any time, you wouldn't have to worry about things lining up, because you could go to any time to where it was lining up. It's like, I don't know. I'm having a hard time kind of voicing my thoughts on that, but I guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't matter when. I mean, if they can create a portal, they could come through any time. So,
well, if you go back to pagan Arabic people, they believe the Jinn were more helpers than anything. But the interesting thing about their beliefs is that they believe that there was two dimensions. There was our dimension, and then there was the Jinn dimension. And the Jinn lived on their own in this other dimension, but would come over into ours to mess with us or to inspire us. They were on that level where some of them were bad, some of them were good. There was good and there was evil. And they would, whenever they wanted to open up that barrier and come over onto our side and exist with us too, they could go either or. But we supposedly weren't able to transfer into their dimension.
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does not sound like a fun place to be.
Yeah. But they were, the pagan Arabic people saw the Jinn as a deity rather than just this other creature. They were gods to them.
So they may have got a better result because of the way they treated them.
Yeah, and they were so they were just like any other culture with their gods. They believed that it was up to the Jinn whether they had a good harvest, or, you know, whether their cattle did well, or whether they were prosperous, or, you know, had healthy children. It was just like any other. So that's how they viewed it. It's really interesting how one small culture, the Arabic and then into the Islamic era, had so many different versions of this one type of creature. I guess if you can call it a creature, but they had so many different ways of looking about it.
They did, for sure.
It's almost like one culture tried to override another.
Well, that's what they do.
I mean, it is what they do.
Yeah.
History is written by the victors, isn't it?
Yep.
That's a good point.
You know, because I also, some of the stuff I was watching, and I honestly didn't read very much on it. But some of the people in the videos and stuff were talking about how there were good Jinn as well. So
yeah, they're like humans personality wise. There's good ones, there's evil ones, there's some that are just, you know, good and evil. You know, they can do good and they can do bad. But ultimately, whatever they do is going to serve them before it serves you. Or in the long run, it'll serve them best.
Almost like
sounds like a bunch of junior high kids.
Right.
Kind of.
Sound very narcissistic.
Yeah. Very. Yeah, that's a good word for it. You know, there's a saying that was ascribed to Muhammad. Muhammad as in the founder of the Islam states.
Mhm.
And it is that God divided the jinn and the human into 10 parts. One part makes up the human race, the other 9 parts make up the jinn. And that's, if you look at how big the human race is, and then times that by 9, and then you're going to get kind of an inkling of how big and how many the jinn actually are. Now, they're not immortal. They will die. They just have longer lifespans. They could live 1,000 years, but they're not immortal.
But, according to the Bible, I mean, if you look at Methuselah and Noah, I mean, how many, they lived for centuries.
Yeah.
The antediluvians lived a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They did. And, I was reading something that's completely unrelated to Jinn, but it was talking about the chemical makeup of the brain is as of such that it could continue on for 1,000 years. It's the body that fails.
Well, I've actually read some of.
Philip was bald for a minute.
Yeah, I loaded that icon in there.
I think that's Mark.
It comes up once in a while.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That is me. Ish.
Yeah, I've got to figure out how to do that. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. We just can't see you.
My face is frozen. I don't know if you guys can see that or not.
Yeah,
in such a really good position.
You need
I love it. I love it.
You need to lay off the Botox.
Yeah. Well, you got me.
That's funny.
All right, I'll be right back. You guys carry on.
Well, we're good at carrying on. Just
Yay! What can we talk about Phil now?
He enjoys it when we talk about it. No. But yeah, I mean, Jinn, they're a fascinating subject, and I kind of got freaked out when I started reading that book by Rosemary Ellen Guy. I get about halfway through, and I started to get scared.
It will freak you out.
Yeah, I think she freaked herself out.
I was starting to see him everywhere. I really was.
Yeah.
And I need to finish the book because it's really interesting, but I totally did freak myself out reading it, and so I could tell how if she freaked herself out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Jinn is crazy, and think about the math. If Jinn lives 1,000 years and a human lives 100, they have the same birth rate, then yeah, there's going to be a whole lot more.
Oh yeah, for sure.
About 10 times more.
Yeah.
And what would happen if they started coming through portals, like maybe now they only come through 1 or 2 at a time. What if they started pouring through in the thousands? What would we do? We couldn't do anything. I mean, we're screwed. We're ants under a magnifying glass, basically, with the sun pointed at us.
So maybe they're just manipulating us for their own amusement constantly.
100% they are.
Let's have a war and bet on the outcome.
Look at what's going on right now. What's the fastest way to wipe out humans? Disease. What's been happening the last few years? A whole lot of disease. One thing's starting to go away, and now here comes these other things. All of a sudden, the immune system's been knocked back on a lot of people, and now here's coming these diseases that were gone. We're pretty much taken care of, controlled at least, like polio and things like that, and they're coming back. And what's the quickest way to wipe out humans? We are not infallible, and we're actually pretty fragile in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Are Jinn actually sane though? That's
depends on what you would call sane. I mean, are humans sane?
Well, probably not, but
right.
I was I can't remember where I read it because honestly, to me it was the other day. It was probably 15 years ago. I read an article. Someone had speculated that the human brain could only remain sane for a limited amount of time. But I like to tack the 300-year on there. I don't know if that's what I read or not, but so eventually, if we were to live that long, and I wonder if that's why our bodies don't break down, so our brains don't. I have wondered if we lived that long, if we would just go nuts, get
I
so
can see
far
that.
into our own head that, you know,
What if you live that long and I mean, what's going to happen to your empathy for others? What's going to happen to, you know, are you going to start pulling the legs off of spiders kind of thing? You know what I
what are
mean?
you going to do out of boredom?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So, if these creatures with supernatural powers
Hmm.
live that long, are we just a cricket they found on the side of the road and started
That
yanking
I
their legs
think
off?
and I can't remember who said it. It may have been Rosemary Ellen Guiley. We're nothing but talking chickens to them, basically.
I it could be argued that we're already there.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You
I'm
know,
sure. Yeah.
with all the UAP stuff or the UFO
Mhm.
stuff. I'm not convinced it's not one and the same.
Do you guys remember did you ever watch Twilight Zone?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Do you remember the episode that had the big aliens and they came down and they helped people and they were curing all the diseases and they were doing all these great things and people were just loving it and they had this handbook and it was called Serving Man and they were like they invited them to come to their planet to see how things were there and
then ate them.
yes, then they realized that wasn't a handbook called Serving Man, it was a cookbook.
It was a cookbook.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the old Twilight Zones.
Oh, those are great, weren't they?
Yep.
Those are the best. For
Yes,
sure.
they were all very clever, and they always seemed to show some facet of the human psyche that
Hmm.
people found uncomfortable.
Yep.
Exactly.
So
That's a good
I
word
feel
for
there's
it.
still a lot of value in the old show.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I go back and watch them still when they come
I
on.
do
I'm
too.
I'm always checking them out again because they were
I,
great.
I always love the one where the guy finally has enough time to read after the end of the world and he breaks his glasses.
Yep.
And
I
That would
like
suck. That
the
would be,
that's
yeah,
irony right there.
yeah. I
complete
like
irony.
the kick the can episode. I think that's
Yeah.
all. That one's always stuck with me for some reason. Ever
Mm,
since I
that's
was
a
a
good
kid.
one. Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, really good. I mean, and it's food for thought. You know, what if? You know, I mean, I think that's probably where I got my start at. Just thinking about stuff like that.
Well, my granddad always said I was weird because my mom liked to watch Dark Shadows when I was little.
That
Well,
was a fun show,
it
though.
was. I tried to rewatch it a while back. I got a ways into it. It wasn't bad. I tried to
Yeah.
redo it, and then I forget what happened. And they took it off the air. There was some big disaster or whatever. I can't
Yeah.
remember what it was.
Yeah, my wife said that show freaks me out. I think she's talking about Twilight Zone. I'll sit up late
No,
at
no,
night and
no,
watch
no,
it.
no, 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 no.
And
It's fun
yeah,
for sure.
it is. I mean, you know, but how many big stars did we see on that?
Oh,
Right?
right,
You know,
right.
early on in their careers, or maybe even later
Oh,
on.
yeah. Didn't they have an episode on Djinn and how badly it turned out to Make a Wish?
I believe so because it
I
was the
Yeah.
guy
believe
that.
they
It would not
did.
surprise me if they did.
Yeah, it was the guy that ran the shop, and he was trying to get out of debt and all that, and he kept tearing stuff up, and I believe
Yeah.
that's the episode.
I think there is. I think there's an episode about Djinn. I think
Yeah.
there's an episode about everything
Yeah, I think so.
on the Twilight Zone. So,
They had some really cool stuff for sure.
well,
Yeah,
not
I've
as
seen.
cool as us.
Was it Peele, Jordan Peele or whatever, tried to reboot it on Paramount Plus. He tried to reboot the Twilight
I
Zone.
missed that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's on Paramount Plus. I guess there's a couple seasons. I started watching it, and I kind of just got away from it. I don't think it was as good. You know, obviously, it didn't have Rod Serling, you know, narrating. And
His
Yeah.
voice
so,
was just
It was
fantastic.
perfect.
It had that serious yet creepy vibe to it,
Yep.
and so a matter of fact about these things. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you'll
So
never be able to duplicate that.
I'm sitting here contemplating a new theory.
Uh-oh.
Pam.
Okay.
So
I'm
you
digging for my
mentioned a
notes.
little bit ago, yeah, watch my brain work. You mentioned a while ago that what would it be like if all of those Djinn started pouring in?
Mm-hmm.
What if they already have?
You know
We
what?
know that there
Explain a lot.
we know that
Yeah.
in a lot of the old stuff, it said that they were quite capable of having sex with humans.
Mm-hmm.
What if they've already integrated themselves?
It's
And the reason why some of us can travel interdimensionally is because we're part Djinn.
it could be.
It
Oh,
makes sense to me. I mean,
yeah.
that's pretty substantial. I mean, if you
Maybe,
think
maybe
about it.
So
that's
yeah, if you go back to, like when we were talking about Mandela effect and Bernstein
Mhm.
Bears and Mr. Stain
Yep.
and all of that, we've come to
souls and
realize that
travelers.
the people who are able to slip into the next lines or travelers like we think Pam might be, we know that they have some abilities. They've had near-death experiences. They're mediums, they're artists, they're writers. They have creativity to them. Um, what if that's a Djinn thing? What if they've already integrated in, and the people who are capable of slipping are only capable because they're Djinn? So that goes back to the whole there's two dimensions, and Djinn are capable of coming in and out, but humans are not.
It just gave me
You
the
may be onto
shivers.
something.
You just
Yeah.
freaked
You know,
me
I
out.
mean, because if you think about it, as spiritual, because the way it seems to me anyway, the ancient civilizations, you're talking about the pagans, the old pagans and all that, they had really no choice but to be spiritual because that's the only way they could explain anything.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And obviously, we've gotten away from that, but maybe they did know more.
They were more in tune with the earth for sure. We've
Right,
gotten away from the earth. We've gotten
right. And
away from anything like that.
if you look at the Native American culture, they were so in tune with the
Mm-hmm.
earth. I've heard interviews of several here recently. I say recently, probably in the past year, several people from different tribes having the same experiences.
Yeah.
Now, is that a 100 monkeys thing, or is it an actual experience? And I mean to have the same experience, and it seems like it's a Native American thing. Is that because they're so in tune? Because I believe, I mean, I'm not 100%. I don't know for sure, but I believe it. They're still teaching their kids and stuff like that about the old ways.
Mm-hmm. I
Some
hope
of
they
them.
are.
In tune. I do too.
I hope they
I do
are.
too.
I think that's probably one of our biggest downfalls is the fact that as a society, you know, we have gotten so, what's the word? Numb to the things that we should be in tune with. We should be more instinctual when it comes to things. We should, there's so many things that we should be able to do that we are not anymore. And it has made us blind. It's made us
Hmm.
blind, deaf and dumb for the most part, all three. Um, what are we doing to ourselves? What have we done to ourselves?
Or what
Yep.
has someone done to us?
I
Fair
think
point.
that's more of it. Tune in Monday. We'll talk about it. Because
It's going to be a funky one.
trust me, it'll blow your mind. The one statistic I gave Mark today, he was like, "Holy crap!" That's like, "Yeah,
I can see it. I mean,
I
Well, now I'm
can too."
intrigued.
oh yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah. Well, when we get off here, I don't want to spill the beans on here tonight. But
Usually our Monday shows can be a little bit depressing. This one
Mhm.
could be depressing, but it's going to be.
see,
This could be a both Fringe and a
yeah, I
news
wanted
show.
to
I mean,
do. I wanted to do something lighthearted because we've had some pretty heavy shows in the last several shows. So I wanted to do something lighthearted for Monday, and I kind of got to researching it. That way, I would have a little bit to talk about at least. And I was like, "Holy crap!
I
It's
know these.
not." Yeah, I know these people. So
That's
it's
wild.
crazy. It'll blow your mind.
Very cool.
But back to the Native American thing, and I'd love to do a show on Native American lore. But I
That'd be
want
great.
somebody that knows what they're talking about. I don't want to.
Jess.
All right, Jess. I love. I mean, the more I've gotten into it, the more I've fallen in love with it because it's so rich.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
And but again, it takes me back to: is this the same entity worldwide, just under a different name?
Absolutely.
You know?
Every entity you can think of, run the gambit. They're everywhere. They just have
Mhm.
different names. It just depends on where you're at, what you're going to call it.
Yeah.
Where and when you're at.
Fairy, aliens, Bigfoot, cryptids, anything. Just like people have different, names, and depending on which country you're in,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same. They are worldwide. I don't think I've ever run across even like a cryptid that you can't find a version of in every freaking country.
They
I
may,
mean, there's
That's true.
like
there's
we
been
speak
cryptids
different
seen in the
languages.
Antarctica.
There may be a Yeti
Yeah.
and a Bigfoot, but they're still of the same
Right.
origin. Of the same type of thing.
Chupacabra. Or is that?
Yeah,
Is
I mean,
Chupacabra.
that right there tells me like everything paranormal. And when I say paranormal, I mean across the gambit, everything. I know a lot of people, when they hear paranormal, they just think ghosts, but that's not what paranormal means. We
No.
all know that. But that's why I'm so sure that what we're working on and what we're studying and what we're researching is real, because there is no way that across the entire world that these things would be repeated over and over and over and over
Right.
again, especially looking back in
the
older times. Yeah, when they didn't have the ability for they didn't have email and internet where 1,000 people could see the same thing that day. Things had to travel slowly. So it makes absolutely no sense that something would be contained to one spot and then I don't know. I've lost my train of thought, but you know what I'm talking about.
Welcome
I
to my
get it.
world.
It's we've always said everything's connected, and
Thanks, Philip.
Yeah.
No problem.
you see all these stories, like you said, the same stories cropping up in every culture. We've got the floods, we've got dragons, what have you. They all show up in every culture, and
well, look at the
sometimes
pyramids around the world. How would everybody know, in these different cultures to build this same exact thing relatively close to the same time?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot are located right along the same parallel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
It is. But see, what stands out to me, we're talking where most of the Djinn lore obviously comes from the Middle East. Like you said, Persia, all that, and what Persia is now modern day Iran, if I'm not mistaken. Then you had Babylon, Samaria. All the ancient civilizations are over there, and that is basically, from what we understand, the cradle of civilization.
That's what they call it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that would come from that area. So these are old spirits, entities, whatever you want to call them. So it makes more sense to me that would be prominent there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I won't say that. I mean, I can't say that they haven't spread out with everybody
They have
else.
for sure. They're everywhere.
I mean, obviously, I think Jess might be onto something with her new theory, though. I really do, because that's pretty intriguing.
It is. Go, Jess.
Woohoo!
Maybe they're in charge of CERN.
And and Philip, just so you know, with all this new DNA research they're doing and things, they're slowly coming to realize that a lot of the Indian tribes did not come over the strait. They were here
Right.
all along. So the cradle may not be the cradle
See,
anymore.
I saw something else today. They're saying this. I didn't read the entire article because I was kind of in a hurry, but they're talking about they found something up around Bosnia and stuff like that, and they're saying, well, this might be the new cradle. So obviously, they don't truly know.
No, we may never know for
Well,
sure.
you
No.
got the Neolithic sites around all over the world that were built about the same time, about 12 to 15,000 years ago.
Hmm.
So everybody was doing the same thing all over the world at
How
the
did they
same
know to
time.
do that?
How
I
did
mean,
that work?
did we have instincts, kind of like birds do back when they know when to do certain things? Or they all what is the name of that theory?
Like a hive mind?
Yeah, kind of like that,
Genetic
where
memory?
yes, when one knows it, they all know it. It's like they're plugged into the big ether.
Right.
That's your 100 monkeys
See that?
theory.
Yes,
Yeah, I would
that's
say
it.
that
Yeah,
follows with the 100 monkeys.
yeah.
That might very well be true. They might have all been plugged in together because they were all so much more in tune with the earth at the time.
Exactly.
Ritual was a big part of their lives, and
Mhm.
that I would think that would keep you all kind of connected. So maybe that has something to do with it too. Maybe it wasn't like aliens came down all across and taught them all at the same time to do this. Maybe it was a hive mind situation.
Let's throw this in here. Electromagnetic waves surround the Earth at all times, protects us from space. What if it also connects us?
It does.
I think it does.
It does.
I mean,
I've always thought
we've
that.
seen the work with the rods. I can douse for water. I think that has everything to do with electromagnetism and not mysticism. So, what if what we consider mysticism and a lot of these other things, what if there's science behind it that we can measure and touch?
I'm sure there is.
Electromagnetic,
I mean,
electromagnetic waves affect so many things.
mhm.
The Egyptians used magnets for healing. And, there's been, a few years ago, I used Nikon products, and, they work. They're magnetic products for healing. In fact, I still use a pillow with magnets in it to help me sleep. So everything is connected
Mhm.
through the Earth's magnetic field. It's like a giant computer where we've all got little zippy particles
Right.
going back and forth
See,
along the field. And
Yeah.
okay, I didn't articulate that well, but
We know what you
We
mean,
got
though.
it.
well, that
yeah,
also goes along with the whole coronavisor thing that Frank was kind of talking about
yeah,
early on
yeah.
the first time we had him on, because this visor they were supposedly able to put it on and tap into that.
So like a God helmet kind of thing.
Yeah, and tap into that and look into the past because that signal is still there.
That's cool.
Let me throw something at you. My wife, the other day we were talking, and this is way off topic, but that's okay. I want to ask you guys. My wife asked the other day. We talk about the quantum theory and stuff like that. We're able to create our own reality,
Hmm.
and we were talking about the debate between flat Earth and round Earth. And my wife's like, well, what if they've created their own flat Earth because they believe it? I was like, that kind of makes sense.
We kind of talked about that on the Antarctica show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
belief is a powerful thing.
It is.
It is.
isn't that how magic works?
Yeah.
In the ancient practices of magic, it worked because a lot of people believed in it, and we all know that if a lot of people pray for something, or a lot of people pass good wishes onto something, a lot of times good things happen that shouldn't have.
Right.
So
Well, even biblically, it talks about that. Where two or more come together in my name, it shall be done. Or kind of paraphrasing.
Right.
You know, so I mean, it's a whole, it's the whole collective consciousness thing.
Hmm.
It's really
Well,
crazy to think about.
if you believe in multiverse theory, there are universes where the Earth is flat. It has to be,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
that idea wouldn't exist
true.
if there
That's a good
wasn't
point.
some.
Yep.
And if you really think about it, in the people's minds who believe that the Earth is flat, the Earth is flat for them.
Yep. It absolutely is.
So it's kind of like their own little dimension that they're living in.
Yep.
Right. It just happens to overlap with ours.
Yeah.
But again, I go back to this coming Monday's show. It's all tying in already, Mark.
Quit
know,
plugging
right?
your show.
Right.
We know what you're doing. We know.
You guys need to watch it. It's going to be good.
Yeah,
I think you're going to get a kick out of it.
Are you doing it
like
live?
I said, after
Yeah,
the
we'll do
show,
it
Okay.
after we get done and go backstage, I'll kind of fill you in what I'm talking about. But I was dumbfounded. And
I'm totally intrigued now.
And so was I. And I of course, I'm pretty easy to dumbfound, but you know, as I get older, it gets easier and easier.
Anyway,
Back on the Djinn really quick. I do want to say one thing before we let this one go. Of all the things, when we talk about if you look into the abyss will eventually look back.
Yep.
This is the biggie that more than anything, I feel will be the one that's looking back. And that's the one that you don't want looking back.
Well, and if you're going to quote Nietzsche, some of the stuff he wrote about, you know, maybe he was talking to some Djinn. I don't know.
He very well could have been.
So
I wonder how much, I mean, especially now with Jess's theory, I wonder how much influence they truly have on our daily lives. You know, because we've talked about them.
I bet they run.
You don't want to know.
I bet they run the capital of every country in the planet.
I'm sure they do. You know, and one of the things that they say about Djinn is their payment is in blood, basically. Human blood's their favorite. So if someone is, you know, requesting their help, there may be an airplane crash, which 200 people die. Well, that's going to be that sacrifice. You know, there's going to be a tragedy due to that wish from somewhere.
And we all know the world has no shortage of sacrifice and
no, not at all.
And tragedy.
Not at all.
You know,
and that's scary.
Yeah, especially now as negative as things are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, all four of us could be the most positive people in the world, but you still look out there and there's so much negativity. You see it on Facebook. You see it on all your social media. It's constantly people bickering.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you overcome that? I mean, I realize that we have to overcome that individually.
Mm-hmm.
But how does one overcome that? Because to me, it's obvious there is something pulling the strings.
There's intention behind it. The question
absolutely.
is
I absolutely
something.
100% believe this is a battle between good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
More than it's a spiritual battle.
We're far enough into it now. You can look back just over the last few years and plainly see that, because, you know, so many times you don't see something until you've already gone through it. But
right.
we're so far into it now that you can see it. There's no question in my mind that something has been pulling the strings. Yep. And has an ulterior motive behind all of this. And I'm sure it's a nefarious one. At least for humans it is. You know, just because they may think they're doing something good, but, you know, whoever you're doing it against or they're doing it against, it's not good for them. You know what I mean? So there's always that good versus evil. But for who is it good and for who is it actually evil? Does that make sense?
Right. Well, yep. I mean, it is obvious just looking back that something is driving it. And
it's a good point, Andrea.
Yeah, very good point. She said, makes me wonder if that's why the elite sacrifice humans. It's payment.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Mark.
No, it's fine. Something's driving it. Someone or someone's driving. Mm-hmm. Something or someone is driving it. And the question has always been who.
Right. And that's why
What's driving the drivers?
Right.
Right. And that's why I say it's more of a spiritual battle. I think whatever, however you want to explain it, I believe there are powerful people that have sold their souls for that power.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who they sold it to is another question. I mean, and I think it could be debatable, whether it be Djinn or it's a demonic thing. Because I do want to make that clear is Djinn and demons aren't the same thing, correct?
No, they're not. They
Okay.
can mimic each other, but they're not.
Mhm.
You know, so it's so yeah. I mean, who knows who was sold what to who or whom? I don't know. I don't speak.
And they don't only do they have to sell themselves one time. There has to be a continuation. If they want to stay in power, they're going to have to renew that because it's eventually going to wane, and they're going to have to, re-inject that energy or whatever. They have to re-up their game.
That's why every 5 or 10 years we have a new war blow up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was just thinking about that. I mean, look at Afghanistan and Iraq. How long were we there? How many people, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines,
civilians,
how much blood was shed?
So much.
I don't know that we'll ever know. I mean, we have a count of who we lost, but we don't know who was lost on the other side or the civilian casualties. We don't know that.
There is evidence that the Nazis in World War II, they were very interested in learning to work with Djinn and learning to utilize Djinn to their advantage over the world.
And then they built the camps.
Mm-hmm.
That fueling there.
Oh yeah, look at all the blood that they got from that. All of the sacrifice that went in towards that war just from the camps, let alone all of the other deaths that occurred from the war.
Right.
And it put a big dent in the human race. It put a big dent in our belief in each other. That's something that really people had to come back from for a long time because that was a horrible time in the world.
And then the Soviets went on to do even worse to their own people.
Yeah.
And Mao and all those guys.
Yeah. I mean,
yep.
How much sacrifice just to keep people in power?
Right. But that's just it. I mean, it's for power. It's not, for power or personal gain, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And who can we look at now? What's that, Mark? I'm sorry.
I said, for some people, power is the personal gain they're looking for.
Absolutely it is. And
for sure.
Who can we look at now? That's the question that I ask myself now is who can we see now on the world stage that is kind of going down that same path? You had your Hitler, your Mao, your Stalin.
Who can we not see that is not going down that same path?
It seems
everybody,
to be
good or bad, whether they got into it for the good, they want to stay there. And in order to stay there, not everything is going to be good that comes out of that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, look at that clown with the World Economic Forum who's decided that most people serve no purpose. Yep. What do we do with them?
Yep.
You tell me that isn't Djinn driven.
No, yeah, that's absolutely
100%.
That's evil.
Mm-hmm. That's completely evil. That's complete, absolute disregard for fellow men. Yeah. It's you thinking that you're better than them. Nobody's better than anybody else.
Yep.
No. But I can guarantee if he is working with Djinn, he's going to find out really quick that was not something that he should have been doing, and he will pay the price for it, regardless of, they're using him. Mm-hmm. Anyone that goes to the Djinn, and I think that's why Rosemary Ellen Guiley pulled some of her books too. Not only was it scaring her, but also she didn't want to put some of this information into the hands that it didn't need to be in.
Yeah.
But I think those hands already had that information.
They either had it or, well, there's other people. I think she's talking not more of leaders, but of the everyday man, because Jinn are everywhere. I mean, they're invisible. They're around us all the time. We don't have to look for them. They're there. So but what if we start to call them, and what if we allow them into our life, and what if we get that ball rolling? She didn't want to be the person that was ultimately responsible for getting that ball rolling. I think
she had some really weird problems, and this goes back to John Keel again. It got to the point where every time she did an interview or a podcast or a reading of her books that talked about Jinn in any way, strange things would happen electronically. She had a lot of problems with recording podcasts. Anytime she started really bringing up specific topics on the Jinn, you could hear a clicking sound that would come across, not on her end, but on the recording end. And it would also happen when she was like recording audio for her books and things like that. This weird clicking sound would come up. The same thing happened to John Keel. He would talk about, getting a phone call and talking to a friend, but the minute he started bringing up the Men in Black or the aliens, you get this clicking sound again. And I think she thought, if this is affecting me by just me knowing about it and speaking publicly on it, what would happen if the everyday person had this as common knowledge too? If they can come at me electronically just with the clicks and scare me half to death, what could they really do?
Well, look how much fun we've had with our broadcast tonight with technical difficulties.
Yeah.
It's actually, I'm surprised it's done as well as it has.
Yeah.
Had more problems.
Usually it's me that has all the problems.
A little side note for you guys, just to kind of contemplate. I have no idea if it has anything to do with anything, but her worst clicking problems happened when she was talking about the Jinn in reference to Bigfoot.
Really?
All right.
That's
whenever she brought Bigfoot into the conversation when she was discussing Jinn, because especially towards the end there, she was really sure that Bigfoot and Jinn were the same thing, which I don't actually believe. But when she would bring up specific topics about Bigfoot along with the Jinn is when the clicking would really pick up, or it would cut her out completely.
I don't feel like they're the same thing, but there's every possibility that they have some sort of relationship with one another.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, there had to have been a connection there or something.
Well, maybe
that's interesting.
Maybe the Jinn was out walking Bigfoot and he got off the leash, and that's why they see him.
I like it. I like it. That sounds like a shirt.
I was looking through my notes and totally go in the opposite direction here, but I did want to get this across before you're
on the right show.
Right? I'm off in the weeds again.
That'd
I have this underlined and bolded, so I really wanted to, and I was going to look up to see what year this book was published, and I don't remember, but I know that Rosemary Ellen Guiley died in 2019, so it was prior to any of the pandemic or anything happening and people kind of going off the rail. But what was in there was, if the Jinn ever did become prevalent in terms of use in a place like the United States, you can expect the next American Civil War. And I was like,
and what have they been talking about for a couple of years?
Right. How scary is that?
I don't believe we're too far.
No, that is scary.
It's potential for sure. And that is scary.
Uh-oh. Pam was glitching for a second.
Oh, was I?
I don't know if you guys heard it or not. I did. Or it might have been my internet.
The Jinner.
As long as I didn't click.
I don't have a clicky pin, or I would hold it up under the mic
right?
and freak everybody out. All my...
There we go. That's good clicks.
I'm a jackass. Sorry. You guys know.
That's what we love about you, Mark.
Oh. I have no sense of decorum. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting to think about that now.
Mm-hmm.
because they seem like total agents of chaos. I mean, that's the only thing
Completely,
I can
yeah.
And look at the world today.
Yep.
They're wanting to their ultimate goal is to get rid of us, but for whatever reason, and that's the interesting part, for as little as they make us feel, they haven't been able to get rid of us for thousands of years.
Maybe they don't want to get rid of us. Maybe they just want to
Control
us because maybe they need us for something.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We serve them.
Yeah, snacks.
Snacks.
It could be snacks. I'd be a nice big juicy snack. You can probably eat on me for 2 or 3 days.
I'm telling you, I'm missing 411.
And I actually, that's funny that you say that, because I wrote that in my notes. Doesn't this sound like 411, missing 411? Because it talked about there's
All
places
connected somehow.
that Djinn like to be off where people are not. And if you do happen to run into their territory, you're going to either disappear or, something's going to happen to you. And I had that out to the side. There's a couple of notes I made to myself. This really, they have a lot of the same characteristics that fairies have, that we know that the Fae have. And it's funny that you say that, because I sure do have that in my notes.
Yeah, I mean,
great minds.
Yeah.
Snacks on the hoof. Oh, they came to me.
So I wonder, we're talking about that, why do they need us? What if they don't need us, but we're under some kind of divine intervention or protection or something like that that's preventing them?
Well, then that's going back to the angel thing.
Right.
A lot of the angels, didn't want, mankind to be around. They wanted, it all for themselves, and they were bitter about the fact that we were made. So
maybe we're just cheap entertainment.
It could be that too.
Dancing monkeys.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's
a monkey dancing in the palm of my hand right here.
Well, think about it. What if we're like Sims to them?
Oh, yeah. My niece used to play Sims constantly. What if those people were real? Some of the things that, I mean,
some of the things you see some people do makes you wonder.
Yeah, why would you do that? Even to a simulation.
Yeah,
brings us back.
I know, Raven. My daughter used to play Sims all the time, and I would walk in, and there'd be some dude on fire in the corner of this room, and she'd be like playing some other game while he was on fire, and I was like, "That dude's on fire!" And she was like, "Yeah, he's better as a ghost, so I'm just waiting for him to die." I was like, "What have I created?"
Seriously, though, think about it. What if we are like that to them? Doesn't that make sense, though? I mean, they don't care.
Cheap entertainment.
Absolute cheap entertainment. We're expendable. I mean, can be replaced easily. Time is nothing to them if they live 1,000 years. So if it's
we do it to ourselves,
generate a person, like you have a person become an adult, that's nothing to them.
Yeah.
So just set them on fire, let them become a ghost, and let's let the other one come take their place.
I spent 8 hours this weekend. I spent 8 hours this weekend playing Fallout. Maybe we're like Fallout to them, and they're just like, "Oh, let's see what happens when we do this."
Doesn't that make stuff make sense? It doesn't make sense, though.
That makes simulation theory make so much more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe we're just a video game.
Why do bad things happen to good people? Because we're all Sims.
Yeah.
That would make more sense than a lot of things.
Yeah.
We've got their controllers going out there. Oh, let's make this guy.
Yeah.
Now you're getting into simulation theory.
What if they're the same? It's all connected.
Yeah. It's all connected.
That's going to be on our gravestones. It's all connected.
It's all one big brain F.
Yep.
One of these days we're going to be on the show and my brain is just going to go up and a poof of smoke is going to come out of my...
Yep.
It's just going to happen.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
It's terrible. It's all connected. I've said it before, I can't research something without having 20 other things I run into that I need to research. And then those go to 20 other things. And then it's never ending. And it's like I said before, if I don't stop once in a while, I'll John Keel out. You guys are gonna find me in a corner someplace.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
It's
Definitely.
all connected. It's all connected.
Mhm.
The insane thing is that we're never gonna know.
Right.
We're never ever we're not gonna know. Not in
Not in
our
this life.
lifetimes anyway.
Not in our lifetime, no, for
No.
sure.
Mm-mm. And it's insane that we go after this stuff, but it's so fun.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It's fascinating and amazing, and
Mhm.
I'm never disappointed when I research. I always
Right.
find something just
Do you
amazing.
Mhm.
you guys do a lot of the research and things like that, and you go down these rabbit holes like we've been for the last couple of years, and to me it feels like here lately I've had more of a spiritual awakening. Do you guys feel that, or is it me, or anything? Just a question.
What do you mean by spiritual?
Just your eyes are opening to more and more.
We've been like that or I've been like that for years.
Right.
It seems like every year it's just more and more.
Just different things, and how. I mean, obviously things are connected, and maybe you guys have been in this longer than I have, and I'm finally getting somewhere
I'll
with
tell
it.
you what, when we first started some of the first investigations that we did, we are meticulous about keeping notes, especially Jess, writing down times and dates and things like that. Just to the minute. And not too long ago at a meeting, we were going back through some paperwork, and I found one of our old investigations, and we were going through. I was just reading through it, and I hit something in there, and I can't even remember what it was now.
We
But
were out at the disappearing house.
yeah, we were, but I can't remember what the word was that popped up. But when it popped up, I was like, oh my God, that has meaning now. And 10 years ago, it didn't mean anything to us at the time, but faithfully wrote it down. And but if we didn't log like that, and Jess is the huge motivator in that to get us to all log things. If we hadn't logged all that, we would have never caught that these things from 10 years ago are coming to fruition now and making sense to us now. And I can't remember what it was. It's going to bother me.
I do. I remember. And you're going to freak out when you remember what it was.
It's Djinn, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought it was. Yeah.
So
I was sitting there talking through that, and I was like, wait a minute. I think it was the word Djinn.
Yeah. So I'll tell the story. So we were sitting right where Pam is, and she was discussing, because she had just read The Djinn by Rosemary Island Guiley and was telling us all about it. And we were getting ready to do an investigation at a home we had done before, and we were hunting for some old paperwork on it. And in the hunt for that, we found an old investigation we'd done out at the disappearing reappearing house that we've talked about on some of the past shows. And in that, we had run a Ovulus session, the little device that will pop out the words as you ask questions. And I can't remember what the question was, but the answer was a Djinn or something akin to that.
Yeah, it was something very close to that.
Yeah, and she freaked out because we had just been discussing this book on the Djinn, something we didn't know anything about at the time that we did that original Ovulus session. We didn't know anything about that. It was something we just passed by because we assumed it meant nothing, that it was a glitch.
Yes.
But looking back at the questions that were asked up to that answer, it all made sense all of a sudden. That's one of the reasons why we're so...
I found it.
I tell everybody, I'm like, keep meticulous notes, because years later, that might come in so handy. You just weren't ready for it yet.
Right.
We weren't
And
ready for that information yet.
Yes.
Since we got together as a group, the synchronicities have been just off the chain. They just keep coming up and reappearing.
The date of that was March 22nd, 2014. That's how long ago it was. And the question was, are you a demon? Do you want to be a demon? and it came back and it said Djinn, and we put in there pronounced Jimm, and Djinn is what we wrote down off to the side. And I don't know. Let me see if you guys can see that or not. Can't see what I'm doing here. It's going to be backwards.
Yep.
Can you see where I wrote Djinn?
Yep.
And that was from 2014.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the hilarious thing is we just discussed that book, and she was just flipping through notes trying to find not even those, something else, and she just kind of glanced through it, and she was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, I was
Look at
totally looking
this.
for something else, and I was just like, "Whoa!" Because back in the day, we started our group in 2012, in June of 2012. So in 2014, we were still all about the ghosts. We weren't anything
all
beyond
about
ghosts.
This was everything.
Yeah.
And spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were so not ready back then for any of that. We look back at all those old notes, and there was a wealth of information that we just were not capable of understanding yet.
Yeah, we didn't get it. We didn't have the background or the knowledge or the research under our belts at that point to even begin to grasp what was really out there.
It has been a strange and wonderful trip with you ladies. It really has been.
It has been. It's been great.
Agreed, sir. Yep. It really has.
Can't believe it's been 10 years. That's crazy.
And really,
it is crazy.
Our interest in these things led me to talking to Phil and agreeing with a bunch of stuff with each other. And it's led to this whole podcast in a way.
All connected.
I mean, it really has. I mean, when
what
you get
cracks me up
right
is here we are
it,
10 years later, and we're sitting here grinning like idiots at each other because we're so into this stuff. We're just
I've always grinned like an idiot because, well, all idiots.
Well,
grin.
now, if you think about it, our very first meeting, we were all like this too.
Oh, I ran across a picture of you, Mark, from one of our first meetings with your head, your
helmet cam,
hard hat on with the cam on it. Yeah,
that was brilliant.
It was. You know, we kind of giggled at the time, but now I'm like, dang, I want one.
I want to find. I'm going to buy a really, really good cam, so I can revisit that. I'll do it without the helmet though.
That would be fun.
It was the helmet that made it.
It was, well, I mean, they've got helmet mounts. You know, I can do that. We can do that to my pith helmet that somebody's going to send me anytime now.
There we go. I'm looking for it. It's
way to use your platform there, Mark.
Putting it out to the universe.
Putting it out to the universe. I need a pith helmet.
I found it.
Needs to have a camera mount
tonight. Can you see it?
This is embarrassing.
There he is.
There we go.
Love my Hawaiian shirt with a bass on it. Yep.
That's awesome.
Look, I had hair.
Awesome.
You did have hair.
Looks like
I had hair.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Oh, that's at the Historical Society.
Yes, that's how long ago.
Wow.
That was like our first or second meeting. Yeah.
That was like our first. I remember that first meeting. I was so nervous because I was like, I'm going to show up and there's going to be like one other person and we're going to look like dumbasses. But I showed up and there was like 25, 30 people there.
There was a lot of people. We were blown away because Mark and I didn't really think, you know, we were like you. We thought maybe one or two people would show up and that would be it. And so many people showed. We were just like, oh, we're not alone, you know. We're not alone in our weird.
No, the hilarious thing is the next meeting, there was less than half.
Yeah, we lost.
And by the third meeting, by the third meeting, we were pretty much down to our group.
Yeah,
pretty much who we have now. A couple minus a couple. But we've been together ever since. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mark, for putting out that call on Facebook.
Absolutely.
Thank you for putting up with my weird.
Yay!
Because there's a lot of it to put up with.
I mean,
poor Phil has no idea what he's gotten into with us.
I know that you and Pam already knew each other, And you obviously would have through Chris and everything. But if it hadn't been for that call out, I probably wouldn't have met you guys.
I would have never met you probably.
Yeah, I mean, I knew who your
When you
mom
brought those
was, and I knew who
delicious
Mike was,
steak
but I didn't know
suckers.
you.
Yeah.
Cake pops, whatever they're called. Remember the lollipops that were made out of the cake? You brought
Oh,
those
cake
at
pops.
first-
Oh,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
brought
the
those
cake
at first
pops,
meeting. It
yeah.
was like, I like this girl. She brings treats.
That's right. I buy my friends with food.
That's
I
funny.
mean, I'm telling you, I'm not cheap, but I can be had. Send me snacks. I'll be your friend forever. I'll probably be your friend anyway, but snacks always help.
Snacks don't hurt, huh? Do you remember the what was it? I made the chocolate bread and the crack. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh,
You
yeah.
need to make
was
that
good.
again.
Chocolate flavored butter on chocolate
Yeah,
flavored
that's what
bread.
it was.
Oh
Crack
man,
butter.
It wasn't
That's what it
really
was.
sweet, but it had it had that deep chocolate.
We only had it
flavor.
one time and we're all like, oh, that was so good. And now I can't eat it. But I can make it for you guys.
you guys
So
ever
we
tried
should.
Go ahead, Jess. Sorry.
I was just going to say we should have Phil over for one of our meetings and make some food, so
Yeah,
he
we
can
should.
know
We
what
can
we're
have
talking
a third
about.
podcast.
Yeah. Let me know, and I'll throw
That would
something in
be
the smoker
A
and bring it.
food podcast.
Absolutely.
Half of
you
our
know, Phil,
podcasts end up talking about food anyway, so
I know it.
Phil, you are totally welcome to come to meetings.
yeah.
We have
Yeah,
no problem
anytime.
with that.
Anytime.
I will tell you that it gets even crazier than these podcasts do. So be
Not worried about it.
prepared.
We
It
rein it
does
in
get
on the
pretty weird.
podcast.
Yeah, be prepared to leave with half your brain leaking out your ear. It's going to happen. You're going to be like, what the hell just happened to me?
I'm good with it.
We'll have to apologize to Andrea before you show up. Sorry.
Sorry, we brought him back a little damaged.
She probably wants to get rid of me for a while anyway. So.
I'm sure mine
know.
does.
There's a delay on Facebook, so I'm waiting for her to comment. So I know she's really interested. And matter of fact, we'll roll right into it. She's really interested in coming over for the Paracon.
Oh, excellent.
Oh,
So-
great.
She wants to come check it out. I mean, I told her I had a
I'm
great time last year.
So excited for the Paracon.
Tell her to
So
come.
excited.
We'll put her to work.
I'm sure she'd be happy to help. I mean, I'm not volunteering her or anything, but
What? Oh,
yeah,
I
my
heard
mom-
you're volunteering her. Okay.
My mom already said she'd keep the kids that day, and
Awesome.
she
Great.
so Andrew can go if she wants. She wants to meet Christina, and
Yeah.
She's awesome.
she's awesome.
she
wants to
she
meet
will make you
Christina.
trip out.
Oh man,
She was so
Great
excited
time.
that we were doing the Paracon too. She's ready to come. She can't wait.
we definitely need to get a hold of her, get her
That
on
is-
here just to talk. I mean,
Oh, she'd
We're-
love that.
We're having a really good turnout so far in pre-registration. So
Good.
I would encourage anybody that's watching, if you're interested in going, to get onto our website and get pre-registered. We
Yeah,
won't.
my
You
wife
don't
said she
have to
wants to.
pre-register. You can register when you show up, but you're guaranteed in if you pre-register. If we can't go over the occupancy limit of the building,
Which we still haven't found out yet.
which we don't know yet.
My best guess is between 200 and 400 people just by using the little formula I found online. Since, it's not posted. I have no clue.
Yeah, my wife said she
And
wants
we
her to
honestly-
do a reading on her.
We honestly don't know, how many to expect, because this is the first time we've put a call out like this and had this kind of response. So
I don't
On
think this
speakers.
year is going to be too outlandish, but we probably definitely want to know by next year because I have the feeling it's just going to grow.
yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
I don't
Yeah.
think we're going to exceed it by any means this year, but next year, it's very possible we'll have to do this for 2 days.
hmm That'd be fun.
That's a
That
good
will
problem.
be-
So
That's a
anyone in
good
Koenig that
problem.
wants to put in a hotel, now would be a great time to do it.
Though. Yeah.
Well, they make the single wide trailers that's split up into 3 hotel units. You could make it temporary.
That'd be cool.
See,
What we need more than any place is a place for people to investigate while they're here.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
to find somewhere.
Yeah. So if there's anybody who lives in the Montgomery County area who has a place that they wouldn't mind having investigated by a horde of strangers, let us know.
Yep. You're talking about hotels and stuff. Something my wife and I wanted to do for the longest time is build a retreat. Get some of those sheds, that you can buy and convert them into like cabins. And my biggest thing for me, I mean, obviously, is homeless veterans. I want to help them out, give them a place to go. Um, but it'd also be kind of cool to have those, have 6, 7 of them set out and have a retreat. They'd be like perfect. Just do like a private retreat with you guys there for a weekend or something like that, and camp out, whatever, stay there. And that'd be awesome. I think that'd be a really cool thing to do.
That'd be really
do
cool.
like a weekend
One
retreat
of us
thing.
needs to get on that lottery.
I know it.
Right?
Yep.
Because we've been saying that for the longest time. If we ever won the big lottery, that's the first thing we'd do. Buy enough land to where we could do that, have it offset, and have a retreat for homeless veterans, or an outreach for them, a place they can come get back on their feet and go. But if
Give them activities like gardening or something that's
right. But I think it'd be cool to do something like that if there was a way to do that. I mean, maybe not now, maybe not this year, maybe 10 years from now or something like that. I think that'd be cool to have a setup like that to do a retreat on.
That'd be really cool.
Maybe we should have a retreat at one of these haunted hotels.
That'd be cool.
We need to find someplace cool that's close by, close enough that we could easily get people to during a Paracon.
I was gonna say, is there any old hotels around here? Close? I mean, you guys would probably know more than I would.
There's one.
Like to investigate?
I mean, to stay at. I mean, have a retreat there.
Not in our area.
Mm-mm.
Probably the closest would be like, well, they're not even a hotel, are they? I don't know. Isn't there a place in Cherryville now?
I have no idea.
I have no clue.
I can't remember. There's somewhere up that way that's got and it may be further on north. I can't remember. I'd have to look.
My wife said they're full of meth heads.
Well, I mean, yes, my town is full of meth heads. It's all messed up.
Too bad the Booth Hotel wasn't a hotel still.
I know. That's
It's
the one I was
beautiful
thinking
building.
of, but it's an apartment complex.
It's such a beautiful building. Have you
It
been
is
inside?
gorgeous.
I've not.
Oh,
It is
it's
gorgeous.
worth going in and walking around. They've done a nice job of restoring it downstairs. It's very.
The apartments are really nice too.
The apartments are nice.
So anyway, that's September 24th at the Caney Recreation Building.
Yes.
Yep.
The community building, I guess.
Right by
is what it
Pizza
is.
Hut.
Yeah,
Right
it's
next
right
to
on
Pizza
Highway
Hut.
75.
What time does it start?
9 a.m. is when 9:30 a.m. is when we're going to open the doors.
Yeah,
And run
it'll
through 6.
it'll officially start at 10. Yeah, and then it'll run till 6:30. We're getting ready this next week. This weekend, the Independence Reporter here in Kansas is going to be putting out a small thing on the Paracon to get it rolling. And as soon as that happens, we're going to be putting up the schedule for the panels on Facebook, so people can kind of start seeing which panels they'd like to come to or view or come to them all. As soon as that drops, I'll be putting that up on Facebook. And something kind of fun we're going to do this year. So some of the people I've talked to, they're really excited about it. So we're going to do a click and share competition on Facebook. Once we plug the different panels. We're going to put out a little click and share, asking people to tell us what topic they would really like for us to talk on, something that they would really love to hear. And we're going to pick a winner towards the end, coming up to the Paracon. And that winner will get lunch for them and one other person to eat with all of the panelists. They'll have all the panelists to themselves for an hour.
Cool.
Just to pick their brains and ask anything they want, you know. If it had been me, like before we started, and somebody had given me the opportunity to sit in an entire room full of, you know, Paracon panelists and just pick their brain, I would have freaked out.
You'd have been a puddle of goo on the floor.
I would have nerd girled out so hard. So the few people I've talked to about it to see if it was something they'd be interested in, we're so excited. So we have that to look forward to. I'll put that call out probably at the beginning of September is when we'll start that little competition, and we'll probably pick them a week out. So that'll be really fun.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
I mean, obviously, if there's anything we can do to help promote it, whatever. I mean, we've been doing the best we can with it. Every time you guys drop something, we'll promote it.
It's
go ahead
great.
And share
Thank you.
Your Facebook group again, so people know where to find you guys at.
Okay, so it's S.E.K. Bordertown Paranormal Society on Facebook. In fact, if you just type in Bordertown Paranormal, it will pull up our page. Okay. You don't have to go that deep into it. And there is also within that page, there's an event set up for it. And you can get all the information you need to know from both sites, from the event page and from our Bordertown site.
Nice.
Or you can go to our website. It's bordertownparanormal.com.
Okay. I'll share both of those in the show notes as well for anybody that's interested. Definitely, if you guys are local or if you're far away and you're looking for something to do for the weekend or whatever, by all means, come out. I mean, it's a good time, good people, a lot of fun. And if you got something to share, Mark and I will be there, probably in the intermissions and stuff like that, having people share their stories, and we'll get your stories out on the podcast. We're trying to figure out how to do a live setup. That way we can go live, be here on Facebook as well, and the Paracon itself will still be live, correct? Is that your plan still?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if all goes well, it'll be live on Facebook. You know, no big promises. We're all very technical people, you know.
My son's supposed to come down and help, so he's going to run the live feed for us.
He might have to teach us how to run this stuff. I don't know.
I may get a hold of my oldest son too. He's pretty techie too. He does IT stuff, so I'll get a hold of him and see if he might want to help out.
That'd be great.
That'd be great. Any help you can bring is going to be welcomed.
A good 100%. Psychiatrist wouldn't be bad. I mean,
yeah. I mean, this thing exploded so fast. Yeah, this thing exploded so fast. We are just almost over our own heads. So any help is quite welcomed.
It's over my head. I am so thankful for you guys. I mean, seems like all I do is work, and then when I'm off, I'm either like.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those give and take things, I guess. But yeah, like I said, any way we can help you guys, definitely. I've got to get on and get some shirts designed. Can you send me email, whatever, or Mark, your guys' logo for the group? I would kind of like to do a little collaboration on a shirt, on a couple like limited edition, you know.
Oh, that'd be cool.
A few shirts or something like that.
Awesome.
So, my wife said she'll try to help too.
Yay!
But
great.
Yeah, folks, definitely. If you guys are in the area or you want to come, by all means. I mean, I would highly recommend it. 10 out of 10. You know. With that being said, stick around. I mean, we got a couple good shows, I believe, lined up for next week. I know you've heard us talking about a Monday show. It'll be fun, but it might blow your mind. Something we stumbled on today. Wednesday, we're looking at talking about prophecy, some things that have happened, and some stuff I've stumbled on with research. Had to put it off again because there's so much going on with it. I want to try to get our ducks in a row with it before we bring it out. Pam, Jess, thanks you guys for coming out and hanging out with us again. It's a lot of fun every time you guys are on. You guys have definitely earned the part-time co-host job, so there's no money in it. So.
The unpaid part-time co-host.
So,
we sure enjoy it.
Yeah, it's fun.
I always enjoy having you guys on talking about crazy stuff. We'll have to do a Native American one. I really want to do a show on Native American lore. I love
That'd be
stuff.
awesome.
I'm your chick. Just let me know when.
All right. We'll shoot for next month. How about that?
All right.
Try to
Sounds
at least
good.
get you guys on at least once a month, and we'll shoot for it next month and go from there. All right, folks. Well, thanks for listening. We thank you for your time and your support, and we'll catch you next episode.
Good night.
Bye.